NASSCOM Game Developers Conference, and now we're going to be talking to two young dynamic entrepreneurs who are actually going out there developing games and putting them out on the international map. Yes, we're talking to co-founders of Hashtash Studios. We have with us Yadu Rajiv and Kinshuk Sunil. Gentlemen, it's great to have you here, and thanks for taking out the time and talking to us. So let me start by understanding this, and I know your game Circulates is the one that's actually made waves. It's won awards this year. It's been available on the App Store. One can download it, play it, developed all right here in India by Indians. So let's start with the journey first of all. Tell us more about it, Kinshuk.
So, okay. So,
are you shy?
No, not really. No. So I was trying to figure out how to start with that. The journey, there's this event called Global Game Jam, and it happens at the last weekend of every January. So this January, Yadu and a couple of friends were working on a game, and they sort of made up a team. And there's another thing that happens, which is called one game a month. So it's sort of a challenge that game designers set for themselves, that we will make one game every month. So we made a game at Global Game Jam, and we decided that this would be our one game a month for January. And then we started talking about that we should do something next for February. And Yadu was in Delhi at that point of time, and we were trying to work on one of our games. And the team that he had built at Global Game Jam, they started talking about ideas, and they started making a game, which was since it's supposed to be made in a month, it has to finish in a month. We decided a couple of things. It should be extremely simple, and it should be releasable by Feb 28th. So we set forward with that target and made an extremely simple game. Eventually we figured that people see a value in it. We were very confused whether it's a game or not. It felt like a prototype, but we didn't know if there's a game. So we started randomly walking around the streets of Delhi, making people play the game, and we got a lot of positive feedback on the game. So we figured that it makes sense to push it out as a game. Then the Feb 28th deadline was removed, and we worked on the game a bit more.
And that's how Circulates came into being.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much polish after that. We were going in iterations, we were testing it out and seeing if it actually clicked with people. We were removing things from the game, making it as minimal as possible, and kind of giving it a very, very simple and minimal aesthetic. And somewhere in between we were like, it doesn't matter how you, it doesn't really matter, the scores didn't really matter. It was more or less how you played with it or who you played with. So it became more than a game. It became more something that would help build connections and get in touch with people as well.
So I'll talk more about the actual, gaming trends and what's working and what's not in a bit. But first, the business. Kinshuk, tell me this: the journey to the Google Store or to the App Store for a game developer sitting here in India. How difficult is it? What are the biggest challenges that you've encountered, and you perhaps will encounter in the next?
So there are two aspects to look at it. If you look in a mobile store, mobile stores are country specific. So when I publish a game on the mobile store, the store is different for each country. It would be Play Store, but it will be Play Store India, Play Store America, Play Store Canada, and so on. So it is easier to get some visibility in your regional store, but India as a market is not a great market. People don't want to buy games. They prefer getting free stuff. That's a consumer in India. So when a new developer comes on the store and puts a game out there, you have pretty much zero traction, which you are bringing to the platform, and you'll try to get press, but since you're not known, you're a nobody, you are very low in the queue for visibility. So you don't get press at the right time. Probably it'll happen 2-3 months from now, unless something exceptional happens. You meet the right person at some conference, or you just find the right connection. So any new developer who's there on the store is not going to find visibility. Your game would be visible for a day or two. People can find it on the store for a day or two, and then they only find it if they are searching for it. So from a business point of view, unless you have a couple of games there, made a name for yourself, mobile store pretty much does not mean much traction for you.
Sure. So how do you beat that problem, Yadu? What was it that you followed with Circulates, and what is it that you're thinking now as you're developing new games to make sure that the interest and the buzz factor is alive?
In a way, I find it like a bit of a sad fact, because we come from a product, or we come from a background where we want to create something original, something, an IP for ourselves, or something creative. We write books or make games or create music. So the biggest saddest part of it is that I don't think in the mobile sphere it's so saturated with the free to play kind of games that it's so hard to kind of bring in original content or try to kind of, especially if you are a younger developer who has no traction at all, like he said. So
for example, we reached out to a lot of press for circulets. In a span of 2 months, I spent out some 500 review requests. We got 0 reviews, and I'm still to hear from those people. So pretty much, I'm somewhere way below the queue.
Yeah.
So.
But the onslaught from the freemium category of games, it's pretty severe, isn't it? And as you mentioned, market like India, everybody loves free games that you can simply download. How do you see this behaving? How do you see this moving in the months to come? And is freemium really here to stay? And is that the biggest threat?
I don't know if to call it a threat because it's a good thing for developers. I mean, a lot of people stand to make money out of it, especially if your game actually makes a lot of, if you actually give out a lot of copies or sell out a lot of copies. But I don't know if you call it a threat, but I think it is here to stay, and the pull is rather strong from the
I wouldn't I wouldn't say it is here to stay, because the mobile market is very dynamic, and freemium is a model that works right now, and it'll stay as long as someone does not figure out a better model, which could happen next week, which could happen next year, or maybe 10 years from now.
Have you thought about exploring this model at all? Developing games for this
freemium
the free
model.
to play, yeah.
At Hashtash, we sort of have a policy that freemium is something
that is.
we're not going to think about much.
Okay.
So it's like this, if your game is a game that works around a store, then it makes sense to have a freemium game. But just having a store or just having in-app monetization because it works as a model does not make sense to us. So some of the ideas that we're exploring right now do include a store component, some gamification as well, but we don't know whether we'll be doing it or not. So
I think it's about just doing it just right, like where it is required and how you can bring it in as a value add. It really makes sense where people would actually want a store in a game, and there are places where you would not want that. If it's a story driven linear game where the experience really matters and a story is going to be a hindrance to that, then it does not make any sense. But
basically it has to fit right, like
Yeah.
the store should have to add value to the game.
So what's 2014 looking like for you guys at Hashtash now?
We're trying to figure that out. We have a couple of ideas, and we're trying to see what clicks. We started prototyping an idea, but somewhere along the line, like we stopped having fun. So we're now trying to figure out some more ideas. Like it's very important for us to prototype, figure out if the concept works for us. If it does, then we go ahead with it. So 2014, yes, we have some ideas, but we don't know which one is going to be there. So
And
please do expect some games from us.
for sure. And finally, I mean, funding and the cost of producing the game, are those issues that kind of play at your mind, or do you think that once it actually makes it to one of the stores and people do start buying the game, then the costs even out?
See, being indie, you always worry about how to pay your next bill. It could be a bill which is the internet bill, nothing severe, but you still have to worry about it. So I don't think the next game that we're going to make, like no matter how good it is going to have that impact where it would be the Angry Bird or whatever of future. I don't think so, because it's not about how good the game is. It's also about getting a lot of other factors not related to development correct.
The marketing.
The marketing. So getting the right press, getting the right exposure, all those things. So we are still very new to that. We keep learning our lessons every day, and we try to not repeat the same mistakes we've been making. So let's see. We are hopeful about what we'll end up doing, but
Early steps where it should all fall in place.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us, and thank you for the time. Good luck with
Thanks.
the gaming plan.
Thank you.